Hello, everyone. My name is Sarafi, and I'm happy to meet you all. And today, I'm going to talk to you guys about Ancient Gears. Ancient Gears is one of my favorite GX decks. I played Ancient Gears a ton when they first came out, and most of my video games that I played, not Duel Links, but like the handhelds that you had back in when you were a kid, most of those were Ancient Gear decks. So the focus of Ancient Gears is on fusion summoning, creating a very powerful monster that cannot be stopped by spells and traps, and crushing your opponent. The skill is Battle Ancient Gear, and what it does is it allows you to normal summon or set Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound without tributing. If you control Ancient Gear Golem, you can set one Polymerization to your field from outside your deck, but at the end phase of this turn, return that card to the bottom of the deck. This skill can only be used if you begin the duel with a deck that contains at least 12 level 8 or lower Ancient Gear monsters and no monsters other than level 8 or lower Ancient Gear monsters. So no Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, which is fine. For the main deck, we have Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, 3000 attack, 3000 defense. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing, and up to twice per turn when this attacking monster destroys a monster of a battle, you can discard one machine monster. This card can attack again in a row. And if this card on the field is destroyed, you can add one Polymerization from your deck to your hand, and if you do, add one other Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. That's an okay effect, but we don't have Polymerization. Ancient Gear Golem. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spells or traps until the end of the damage step. Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. If this card is normal summon, inflict 300 damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spells or traps until the end of the damage step. And once per turn, you can fusion summon one Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials. It's basically a polymerization on legs, but the fact that you have to normal summon it in order to use its effect means that you can't normal summon Ancient Gear Golem, so that means that you can't get the free polymerization if you use this card. It's kind of an awkward situation. Ancient Gear Frame, you can discard one card to add one Ancient Gear Golem or one spell or trap that specifically lists it from your deck to your hand. And if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon up to 3 Ancient Gear Golems and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds from your hand, including ignoring their summoning conditions. Ancient Gear Wyvern, if it's summoned, you can't set cards for the rest of the turn, so make sure you set all your cards beforehand and draw an Ancient Gear monster. Fine. Then we're running 3 MSTs and 3 Compulses to try and avoid enemy threats. For the extra deck, we are playing Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Requires Ancient Gear Golem and 2 Ancient Gear monsters. You cannot use Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound for the Ancient Gear Golem requirement, which is very unfortunate. During battle between this attacking card and a defense position monster whose defense is lower than the attack of this card, inflict the difference as battle damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon one Ancient Gear Golem from your graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions. Fantastic. Then we have Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. This only requires 3 Ancient Gear monsters, so this is what you'll usually make with your Hunting Hound. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. If this card was fusion summoned using 2 or more Ancient Gear Golem and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound as material, it can attack up to that many times during each battle phase. So if you fuse this with 3 Ancient Gear Golems, it has 3 attacks. Pretty nice. If this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Wow. So, get rid of this card with a card effect, and you're going to get an even stronger monster that also replaces itself as soon as it's destroyed. Very, very strong. I'm running Parapsychroid just because it has 600 attack points, and if you summon Ancient Gear Golem, you just need a little bit of extra damage to push through. I've literally never summoned this card, but in theory it could be okay. And then Heavy Armored Train Iron Wolf is Cope. You're never going to have 2 level 4s with this deck. Alright, let's take a look at the replay. We are going second against the Cyberse Clock Dragon deck. Our opponent special summons Link Slayer, then activates their skill. Normal summons Clock Wyvern to get the token, and then use the skill to turn it into a Stack Reviver. Then link those off into Proxy F. Stack Reviver effect, revive the Clock Wyvern. Use the skill, turn Clock Wyvern and Proxy F into dragons so that you can fuse into Vorlov Furious and pass. Okay. I activate my skill. I'm now allowed to summon Ancient Gear Golem without tributing, and then I set a Polymerization from outside my deck to the field. Then I activate Polymerization, and my opponent is going to chain Borreload Furious Dragon to take Ancient Gear Golem off the field so that he can stop me from fusion summoning. Fortunately for him, I bricked, so I'm good to fuse. Alright, so with the power of drawing a bad hand, I fuse the 3 other cards in my hand to make Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Then I'll set my Polymerization, and I'll destroy his monster. It's his turn. He's going to banish Borreload Furies from the graveyard to get his Decode Talker back. Then he special summons Degrade Buster, and he activates its effect to banish my Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. However, that means my Ancient Gear Megaton Golem left the field because of an opponent's card effect, so I immediately get to special summon Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. My opponent then summons Clock Wyvern and activates Signet Fusion, banishing the Proxy F from his graveyard to summon his Cyberse Clock Dragon. Then he activates the skill to raise its attack points to 7,500, and I will go ahead and compulse it in response. He sets a card and passes. Then he banishes my Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. I MST his face down card. He's going to Book of Moon, and I will just flip my monster in response, then destroy his monster. My monster comes back, he draws, and he has nothing. There you go. That is how you can loop your Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem and your Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Just normal summon your Ancient Gear Golem, grab your free poly, and go to town. Pound Town. This is Serafi. I was thrilled to have you all with me.